with no further ado, I'd love to introduce this unique webinar focusing on the importance of oxygenation and detoxification of free radicals. And as we all know, we are living in a very polluted and stressful environment. And if you're like me, you're seeing a lot of clients in practice that are experiencing something called hypoxia, which is an experience of under-oxygenation of tissues in their cells. And under-oxygenation can lead to several chronic conditions, including a slowing down of metabolism, issues with the mitochondria, as well as several other pulmonary and cancerous conditions. So today we'd like to understand a little bit more what is hypoxia, how can we increase oxygen uptake, and how can we actually detoxify free radicals to live a healthy life. And our speaker for today is none other than Jacquier, who is a naturopath, who is also hypnotherapy, hypnobirthing practitioner. And she is also a practitioner manager for the company called HOLISTE, who have discovered a new tool to be able to increase oxygen uptake.
Hello, everybody. Absolutely delighted to be here and talking about the wonderful bol d'air Jacquier, which I've been using in practice and personally, even before I was a naturopath for many, many years. So just before we start, I just wanted to, to tell everybody this presentation has been done by our scientists in France, Béatrice Mercier. So all the information you see in this presentation have been given to us by head office. So Béatrice Mercier in France. I am not myself a scientist, so if you have at the end any questions related to the science, as Romina said, we have got links and etc. But if they are scientifically led, then please by all means send them to us. And if I can't answer them at the end of the webinar, we can always ask our scientist in France. So let's start. So oxygenation and detoxification. Go. So as Romina said, our oxygen levels are, in the air is about 21%. And this is true for, for most places. So what do we have? We have, azote and oxygen, we have other gases, and this is essential for life. So basically, we can go for days, without eating or drinking, but a lack of oxygen within 5 minutes, and, it has very serious consequences. It also depends on where you are, if there is pollution, if you can't breathe properly, then the amount of oxygen going in is obviously not as much as, your body will need. But that 21% is quite important. So try to remember that, that number. I also would like to apologize before we go any further. I have got my notes on the side. So if you see me looking on the side, it's also, at looking at my notes. So apologies for that. So it's, as oxygen is essential to the good functioning of our cells and the mitochondria. And that's what we're going to see now and why. There we go. So just, very basic. So, the respiratory system. So sternum, the ribs, the lungs, and the diaphragm, which you've got here. So what all these gas exchanges, where do they occur? So you've got all the blood capillaries here, and the oxygen from the air is distributed in the blood at the same time. So the blood releases the carbon dioxide it contains, and hemoglobin assures, its transport. So more than 95% of the oxygen bonds to the hemoglobin. So that's the protein that consisting mainly of red blood cells. So the oxygen goes in, it's distributed, as you can see here, it's taken by the hemoglobin, then it's released in the organs. And then of course, there is a gas exchange where the blood takes, the carbon, the dioxide carbon, and then takes it out. So we have, more or less 100 billion cells, and those cells are so important because within the cells, you have the mitochondria, and that provides energy. And to function normally, we need a good amount of oxygenation. So you have two things here. So we have storable nutrients. So when you eat your food and the body goes through the metabolism, that could be stored. The problem is with oxygen, you can't store oxygen within the cells. So if you're lacking oxygen, if you can't breathe properly for many reasons, that oxygen is not stored. And that's why when Romina said, we are in a state, most of us, of hypoxia, that's the problem we are trying to tackle with the Boulder. So, and we are dependent, as it says here, on a constant supply of oxygen. So the mitochondria is at the heart of the energy system. So we have, more than 1,500 mitochondria per cell. As in the presence of oxygen, that we create that energy, which is ATP. So one molecule of glucose provides 36 units of energy. And if there is a lack of oxygen, you only produce 2 units. So, and it's the intracellular organelle, which is considered like the power plant of the cell. So that's where the final steps of respiration, takes place. So if that transformation is lacking, the oxygen, which is the most important part there, then that energy is not produced. So a lack of oxygen, and that's hypoxia, what does happen when the oxygen runs out? So when you have a lack of oxygen at cellular level, you are in an energy deficit. So, and that's when we can see the start of diseases, as Romina said. So it starts very slowly, and then it increases. And, we have a really good body of evidence now that proves, I will actually share a link with Romina, which is not from Boulder, but I found this link 2 years ago when COVID hit. And it was really interesting because they have done a lot of studies on degenerative conditions. And the main problem was hypoxia. So whether it's Alzheimer's or other degenerative conditions, hypoxia was one of the biggest drive for these conditions. So I will pass it on to Romina, and we will send it to you once we finish the webinar. Really, really interesting. So the oxygen deficiency in the tissue leads to a slowing down of energy production, and that has a consequences on the biochemical reactions which are needed for assimilation and transformation of the nutrients. So that remains, if it remains incomplete, it starts creating toxins within the body and a slowing down of the metabolism. So if you are young or youngish, the body can more or less cope. But obviously, the older you get, the more difficult it will be. And then all those toxins get built up within the body. Hence, that leads to certain conditions. So then you get these alarm bells from the body. So, for example, getting more tired or getting headaches, even having aches and pains. The body is sending you the signals that something is not being, or the body is not working efficiently, and you are under-oxygenated. So, what are the reason why we are in hypoxia? So the first one is pollution. So, and for most of us who live in London, you can actually feel it. I feel it. If I go abroad, for example, and comes back to London, as soon as I come back, I feel more tired, foggy. I get headaches. So pollutions present in the atmosphere decreases the quantity of oxygen present in the tissue, and the way that works, so pollution coats the airways and slow down gas exchanges. So some of them, such as carbon monoxide, for example, can even replace oxygen in the hemoglobin. And that's when, the breathing capacity is diminished. And it starts, creating problems, especially if you're asthmatic. And I see clients, who have got, asthma problems. With the Boulder, you can see, it's getting better as soon as they, you know, they do the sessions, because, you know, you've got, you know, that bringing, you know, the oxygen levels, you know, to a good level. So the other problem is also, you know, aging. As we all know, we are all aging. You know, there is no way to get out of that. And of course, you know, the body slows down. You know, the metabolism slows down. So if the functions, you know, are not working efficiently, those toxins, you know, stay longer in the body. With Bolder, that will be increased and improved. Another reason for hypoxia, stress. We know, well, we all know the impact of stress. We also know that when we are stressed, you know, we tend, blood pressure sometimes, you know, drops, which also has an impact on the level of oxygenation, you know, in the body, and infections. So we all know that when there is any disease in the body, we need more or less, you know, 10 times more oxygen to fight that infection. So all this will create a state of hypoxia, depending on the severity, but they are the main. Also, the other thing that can create hypoxia is a bad diet, or because if you're not bringing the right nutrients in the body to start with, and you're not breathing properly, that will have an impact also on the mitochondria work, and that will also create a state of toxins in the body. So it's all linked. So it is a vicious circle, because you've got two things at play here. So an excess or a lack of oxygen in both ways will create a state where the cells is in a state of distress. So if you have an excess of oxygen, it will create the creation of more free radicals. So we all produce free radicals. That's just, you know, how our cells function. So, and they need, you know, to produce those. The problem is when we produce too much, or the cells produces too much, and that causes dysfunctions in the heart of the mitochondria. So if there is a dysfunction, then you start seeing it here. So it starts with a lack of energy, and then a slowdown of cellular functions. And then you get to fatigue, dysfunctions at different levels with all the free radicals. And then later on, you have the installation of organic pathologies, which could be, as Romina said, you know, it can start with, you know, with various diseases. You know, we'll look at them in a minute, but it starts very gradually. And that's why it's really important to listen to the alarm bells. You know, what is the body saying? You know, do I get, you know, more frequent headaches? You know, do I get more tired, you know, after lunch, for example? Is my sleep, you know, compromised? Do I have problems, you know, losing weight? What is it that the body is sending as signals that says, maybe I am in a state of hypoxia? So the origin of free radicals. I mean, we've all heard of free radicals, and they use it a lot in beauty products, you know, and have to fight, you know, the passing of time. But we all know it starts, you know, from inside. And those free radicals, where do they come from? So I was going to say at a good level, at a normal level, it's just a normal functioning of mitochondria. You know, we produce those because the cells is functioning in a certain way, choosing the nutrients, the oxygen. There is a waste, and we produce those free radicals, which is absolutely fine. But when we produce too much, when we are in a state of hypoxia, then it starts to become a little bit more complicated. And why we produce those more? So you have mitochondrial dysfunction, maybe and the reason being maybe diseases, or again, a lack of oxygenation. Inflammatory diseases create free radicals, stress. And I think you'll all agree with me that, you know, we see mostly stressed clients, you know, whether it's emotional stress, whether it's physical stress, whether it's, you know, other types of stress. So it's really important, you know, in our practices, you know, to deal with stress, because that will have other impacts on other parts of the body. Electromagnetism at home and in the environment, phones and computers. Hyperoxidation and hypoxia also create free radicals. Physical overexertion, pollutants in the diet and the atmosphere, as I said before. Smoking, of course, chemically synthesized medicine, and other products. But what that does is that those free radicals attack the integrity of the mitochondria and the cell. And that's not good, because in the long terms, that can create some very serious problems. Let's just focus on the detoxification and detoxination. So what is it? So when you detox, the ultimate goal is obviously to feel better, but for the body, it creates a state of revitalization. You know, our clients, you know, they feel better, you know, they feel revitalized. And for the detox plan, what does that mean really? So it's vital for optimal health, because as we said, it's not just, you know, a question of feeling better. It also means the body has the capacity to regenerate. It removes the toxins from the system, and it's also imperative before full revitalization. So from detox to fasting, there is only one step. And some of you would be very familiar with the fasting principles. So principle and procedures. There we go. So we implemented over a minimum period of 1 month. We don't want, you know, this process to be too drastic or being too difficult for your clients, because you have to go gently. So first of all, you implement a natural and simple diet, because as we've seen, the reason why, you know, if we don't bring a wholesome diet that your body and the cells, you know, can utilize, then that creates toxin in itself. So recommending, as we all do as practitioners and naturopaths, a simple diet, a wholesome diet, that's easy for the body to digest, and that will bring all the important nutrients. That's very important. So implementation of drainage techniques to eliminate toxins. Some of you are maybe massage therapists, or so that will also help the detox process. Adoption of relaxation techniques, because the mind is one of the biggest energy consumers, the brain, really, really important. So whether it's mindfulness, whether it's meditation, really important. Physical activities as well, like yoga, also help. Adoption of breathing techniques, really, really important. And of course, cellular reoxygenation. So these 4 phases are linked. There is no particular order. So you can start with, you know, bolder sessions, as well as having an impact on your client's diet. So really having a holistic view of this detox process is really important, because that's also how you are going to see, you know, the benefits. So really, really important. So the advantages of detoxing. So it's resting and cleansing the digestive system. And I don't know if you're like me, but I see lots of clients who are either on the go, you know, their diet is not great, or they eat, you know, all the time. They, you know, their body doesn't seem to have a resting phase. So it's really, really important to give the digestive system a rest, because we know that a lot of very important function, immunity, you know, start in the gut. So having an impact on the digestive system and letting it rest is really important. It also helps the emunctory organs to eliminate the waste. For those of you who, you know, maybe don't know what the emunctory organs are, they are the principal ways for the body to get rid of waste. So skin, you know, when you sweat, the lungs are really important. You know, your what do you call them? You know, urinating, and also, you know, all these emunctory organs are really important, because if they are blocked, or if they're not working properly, if people don't go to the loo, or if they don't poo regularly, as we know, it's really important, or they don't sweat, then the toxins stay in. And that's why it's really, really important to help the body, help those function, so that the toxins are evacuated, and the body, you know, can get rid of those toxins efficiently. So provision of the energy used for digestion towards the whole of the body's systems, which then helps the ability to correct its dysfunctions, If the body is too busy trying to digest maybe some food that's not even wholesome or full of nutrients, then that energy is directed from other vital functions, and it could be, the kidneys or the liver. So it's really, really important to focus on the digestive system first. It's also a good way to reconnect with one's feelings. How do people feel when, they are not eating all the time, or if, they are really paying attention to their thoughts, if they are meditating, if they are resting, how are they connecting with their bodies? Really, really important. Where does it hurt? Some clients say, oh, I didn't notice, I had a pain there, or I couldn't move, or, my back, so it's really important to also make them feel it's a good start for them to reconnect with their bodies. How do I feel and where do I feel it? Does it feel right? And it's an energy boost. So the downsides of the detox process, and there are some. So when you start, and I don't know if some of you have experienced this, you start a detox process and you think, oh, this is worse actually. So you might get so you feel, the effects are fast, and a relief is felt, within the first few days. But sometimes the drainage performed by the emunctories can come with some unpleasant side effects, as we all know. So you can have outbreaks on the skin, you can have headaches, broken sleep, bad breath, minor muscular aches. And, there are all signs that something is happening. For us as practitioners, we know it's a good sign, because it's also a sign that the body, there is vitality there. So the body is responding, but it's also important to let the clients know that, their condition is not getting worse. It is just a phase. But using Boulder will help to minimize those symptoms because of the better oxygenation of the cells. So it will help support the emunctories and the organs who are responsible for those detox processes. So the other good thing as well, so Boulder breathing sessions will stimulate the creation of enzymes called sirtuins. And these enzymes participate in the regulation of many biological pathways. And if you Google sirtuins, what comes is, they fight, they're like free radicals. So in the anti-aging talk, they are quite important. So revitalization and stabilization. So they are linked. So there's a sustainable regaining energy and vitality. And it's also about harmonizing the physical and the mental, because as we said, they both go together. If your clients are not wholly and truly, thinking, okay, I'm detoxing my body, but it's also a mental detox, what is it? Am I too, have I got, constant thoughts that stop, as we said, the brain is one of the biggest consumer of oxygen. If the brain is constantly focusing on negative thoughts or stressful thoughts, then the body detoxing process is not going to be as efficient. So it's really key that it's physical as well as mental. And the key to homeostasis is cellular oxygenation. It's really, really important. So the solution Boulder Jacquier. So HOLISTE, which is the company, it's a wonderful company. So they're based in Burgundy, in a beautiful area, a beautiful region. And the president since 1989 is Marie-Laure Delaney, a wonderful lady. So the design, the research, and the commercial center for Boulder is there in that beautiful house. I've been there, and it's just fantastic. The product is made in France. They have a wonderful commercial and ethos behind the machine. So it's eco-friendly, it's designed in France, it's produced in France, and trying to be as holistic as possible. So here's the man. So here is the inventor, René Jacquier. So René Jacquier was a chemist, a researcher, And he really was a visionary inventor. He was really amazing. He was a chemical engineer. He was also the student of the Nobel Prize winner, Victor Grignard, a French scientist. And he was really embarked on a wonderful research career. And he coordinated work, in several fields, such as antibiotics and penicillin extraction procedures. And he really had a way of looking at what was happening in nature. So he was really interested in biotics and the ideal parameters of good health, because for him, it was all about cellular oxygenation. The essential element of all his research was cellular oxygenation. And he died just short of being 100. So he must, and he was using Boulder. So really extraordinary man. So balanced oxygenation. So the goal is to maintain an ideal level of oxygenation at a cellular level. It's not to breathe more oxygen, but it's to breathe an oxygen that can be carried in a better way, more efficiently within the cells. So the method is to breathe in an efficient transporter of oxygen and not pure oxygen itself, because that can be also dangerous, and that can be oxidative, that can create oxidative stress. So the active ingredient is extracts of orezine, which is an essential oil from the maritime pines, from a specific area in France, and that acquires its new properties through peroxidation. And of course, the Boulder Jacquier is the device. So this is the machine. So what you have is, so the ambient air is charged with oxygen, obviously. So it's captured here and it's filtered. So this is the latest machine, the Aero. And then it's channeled into a glass container here, which contains, the essential oil. Now, the bubbling here, which happens here, so it allows the most volatile elements to become isolated, and it's the alpha and beta pinene. And this is really important because you can't use any other essential oil. It really has to be the orezine, which is patented, and it's a specific essential oil. And then what happens is transformed in the chamber. It's like a mini lab, basically. So it's transformed and peroxidized, and then it creates a new molecule. It's all very scientific, but it's a wonderful process. So these are the molecules of the alpha pinene. So what happens is you have, you can see here, so you have the molecules when they are not, there is a double bond here, but when that process happens in the mini lab, then what happens is you have an addition of an oxygen molecule of the terpene. So you're bringing more oxygen in. It's a carrier. And that's what happens. That's why you are able to, that transporter is able to bring more oxygen in the cell because of that process with that essential oils, with this alpha and beta pinene, which doesn't happen with other essential oils. So I'm just looking at my notes here because there are some amazing info. So the pinenes in the essential oil, so transformed by peroxidation, they become facilitators of cellular oxygenation. So, and that's why we call them biocatalysts. There is, and that catalyst then brings the extra oxygen into the cell. So the mechanism is threefold. So there is a better distribution of oxygen to the cells, essentially because the hemoglobin captures the oxygenated pinenes more readily than oxygen on its own. And the same amount of oxygen is inhaled from the air, but more of it gets to the cell. That's why I said earlier on, it's not about bringing or breathing more oxygen, is that oxygen being able to be taken into the cell. With the pinenes, with this specific essential oil, it does, because the molecule can capture more molecules of oxygen and bring them in. So then the oxygen is more easily liberated in the tissues because it's carried by the intermediary of the pinenes. It's less solidly bound to the hemoglobin. And then the oxygen is delivered in a nascent form, which makes it more readily assimilated by the body. So that's why it's really, really important to focus on the orezine. So then what do you have? You have the oxygen here plus the orezine, and you've got a super catalyst, or the catalyzer, which that's what takes the extra oxygen into the cells. So it's a new molecule basically that you're inhaling. So the journey of the super transporter, as we call it. So you breathe the transporter, which goes into the lungs and the alveoli, is charged in oxygen, and then it's liberated into the cells. So between 2 and 3 hours, you have there's like a journey. So it keeps on liberating. That's why we recommend, if possible, to have 2 or 3 sessions per day. So in between, you still have the super transporter still has an effect in the body, liberating the super transporter. That's why people, feel the effect when they do the session regularly, twice a day, if possible. They can feel the effect, more profoundly. So just a synopsis. So what's happening, outside of the body? So you have the ambient air, you have the orezine, and the release of the aromatic molecules, and then it goes into the mini lab, or the transformation phase. So the peroxidation creates the transporter, or that new molecule. It's inhaled. The transporter, the creation of the transporter goes into the blood, and it brings more oxygen into the cells. So it increased the energy delivery to all bodily function. That's why it has an impact on all body function, because the oxygen doesn't just target one place, it goes everywhere in the body. So this is the wonderful, it's just gold. We call it, in French, we call it, it's like a gold liquid. The orezine is just amazing. So we look at, the harvesting, how it's, there's a specific distillation. So it's obviously very important, again, to emphasize that this is the only essential oil we use in the machine, because of all the reason I'm going to talk about now. So it's a specific method. It's called the Biogem method. And let me just get my notes, because it's so amazing. So these trees, so the pinens are in a very specific area of France, so, the southwest. These, it's the composition of the essential oil. That's also why, it works, because it has certain properties. So let me just, there we go. So the Biogem program was developed by HOLISTE in the forest of Aquitaine, and it has introduced a new, more efficient way to get the resin, because it's the resin that's taken from the trees and then transformed in a certain way. So the resin is the raw material of orezine. So it's taken from the sap of the maritime pines. And again, for those of you who do essential oils, it's the Pinus pinaster, which is a very specific essential oil. So that's collected by tapping into the bark of the tree. And again, the way HOLISTE does this is to do it in a very eco-friendly way, so that the trees are preserved, but we get, the liquid gold, as I call it, and the resin, but it's in a very eco-conscious way. So to make the orezine using Boulder, HOLISTE uses top quality essential turpentine oil. And as I said, it comes from the forests of the Landes and the Atlantic coast. So that's also very, very important. And its composition is analyzed in a lab by a certified body, and it's organic and guaranteed by the European label EcoCert. So very, very important. So the quality of the essential oil. So these are the qualities that, the essential oil has at the beginning. So the naturally occurring properties, it's antiparasitic, analgesic, disinfectant, anti-infective, antispasmodic, and diuretic. But once it has gone into the machine, into the mini lab, these are also the benefits. So it's bactericidal, lipophilitic, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-stress, decongestion. and it increases the oxygen saturation, and it increases the diffusion of oxygen in the tissues, which is what we are looking at here. There you go. So Boulder increases detox efficiency because it works at, the heart of the cell, where the mitochondria is. So there is a little study here, which we will send you, I think as Romina said, she will send you the link. So there was a study or an analysis on 5 women and 5 men of German origin who were in good health or monitored for various pathologies. And the experimentation duration was about 10 weeks. And they had 1 session per week. And the intensity was 2 to 3 and 4 to 5 minutes. And that, the biological markers, improved, drastically. When we put intensity 2 to 3, I mean, I'll talk about the different machines, but we have 2 different types of machine where you can set the intensity differently. So that's why it's there. So it also helps reduce pain and fatigue. And that can also discourage detox candidates, especially if they have certain conditions. And what we discovered with people who have this condition, so it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. So a comparative study between a population treated with oxygen therapy and a test population with the Boulder-Jacquier. So, and they've seen that there was a rapid fatigue improvement effect in both cases and a decrease in migraines and shortness of breath for the Boulder group. So the Boulder also optimizes detox and has a wonderful effect on mental well-being. And this is also another experiment where they did a test POMS, which is an assessment of a person's state of anxiety and depression. And as you can see on here, so the dark blue is at the start of the experiment and the light blue at the end of the experiment after Boulder. So, and the results show a decrease in most of the negative markers at the end of Boulder inhalation period and an improvement in the positive markers. So energy levels, higher, happiness or feeling more elated, higher, less confused, fatigue more or less the same, but feeling less anxious, depression, that's one of the biggest drop. And yeah, feeling less tension in the body as well. And that's all linked to a better cellular oxygenation. So another positive is also decreases oxidative stress. And again, there is a test which was developed by Denis Blache and Michel Prost. And this test is recognized by the French Ministry of Health and at European level as well. So the use of the Boulder improves the anti-radical capacity of the body, especially when the inhalations are frequent and long. And this study was conducted at the Faculty of Dijon, which is also in Burgundy. And you can see again, the control group and, the Boulder users, there is a massive, improvement. Oxidative stress, we would also share with you, there is a presentation or there are lots of studies and testimonials with a lot of French sports people, and it's just, remarkable because they train and their body function at a certain level. The studies and the testimonials, we have from them is just absolutely incredible because you can see as they train more often, you can see the improvements as well, more regularly because they use the machine more regularly. So I really urge you to go and look once we finish at the sports presentation because the improvements in their practices, in their performances is also fantastic. So Boulder also has a favorable effect on fat metabolism. So there was a study on oxygen consumption by calorimetry, an effect of Boulder inhalation on obese and anorexic patients. And we discovered that after 2 months of dieting, the Boulder patients use more of their body fat than at the start and gain in lean mass, whereas the control loose lean mass and little fat mass. So why not integrate it into your practice, like so many people? So we have 3 different machines. So the tonic model is the more family use model. So you have 5 different settings. So you can start at 3 minutes and you can go 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15 minutes. So you can go up to 15 minutes. And yeah, so you can't really change the setting of the machine, it's just the time. I don't know if you can see, probably not, but you have a little glass, it's a little round glass ball where the orezine is placed. And yeah, it's a wonderful little machine, really good, as I said, for family use. The aerotonic, the aero machine, sorry, that's more for professional use. So I would say you don't do sessions more than 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. And on that machine, which is an amazing machine, you can adjust the arm here, which is really good. For example, if you have in your practice, maybe, people who have maybe mobility issues or even at home, for example, really, really good. So as I said, 5, 6 minutes maximum. And you can start at 1 minute. The way you put the essential oils is in this ball again, but it's slightly different. And you have different strength on this machine. The Aero 2 pass, that's exactly the same machine as the Aero 2, but you have a pass system where, which is brilliant for practitioners, because you can start giving them to your patients, for example, your clients, so they can have a pass. You can charge them with minutes. So for example, somebody pays you for a certain amount of money, and you know that you can charge the pass for X amount of minutes. And your clients, if they come into a practice where they don't have to see you, for example, they can just use the passes and do their own sessions. So it's great because your clients can feel, they can come. And I know in France, for example, they use them in pharmacies, in clinics, and you just go in, you use your pass, and it makes it much easier for clients, to use the machine. It's more, instead of, booking with you, you can just come in and use it. So it perpetuates this sense that, they can do it every day if they want, which also improves the outcome. So it can be universally used. It's suitable for all ages, and always start slowly and gradually increase the session time. You can adapt the time according to the body's reaction, and just being cautious with people who have, maybe asthmatic issues or are spasmophilic, have certain allergy or hyperthyroid issues. So regular use obviously increases the efficiency. So why not create a regime? That's what I do. So for example, every day for a month, or ideally all year round, or they can use it maybe, maybe stop in summer, start again in September, October, where we can start, seeing the weather is getting colder. People will start getting maybe more colds, just to strengthen the immune system. It's good to have a routine. And there is no risk of addiction, overdose, or toxicity. So just precautions of use, as any other essential oil, so orezine is not recommended for pregnant and breastfeeding women or children under 36 months. And there are also some contraindications, so terpene-dependent epilepsies, seizure episodes, allergy to turpentine, or people who are going through immunosuppressive treatments. And of course, the Bolder does not replace the usual treatments. It's not a medical device. It can support, your clients, but it's in any way, we are not recommending to stop any treatments, or, it's just a good way to support the body's, the body functions when people are feeling maybe tired or poorly. So, instructions for use during fasting and a detox phase. So, short and repeated sessions, a few hours apart, in the morning, for example, or at any time of the day, according to individuals' preferences. Individualize the practice according to each profile, whether you have maybe, young, relatively healthy clients, or if you have maybe, slightly older clients, just individualize the use. So we have some testimonials here. So, so this person started using the Boulder 2 months ago, and the beneficial effects materialized very quickly. So the routine was, and still is, 2 to 3 minutes inhalation per day, the first in the morning and the second in the evening before bedtime. And I immediately noticed an influx of energy, like I noticed with everyone who tries the machine. So my daily tasks required less efforts, and I was breathing better. And that person is 67 years old and smoked since the age of 20. So you can imagine the cellular work wasn't all that, but just doing 2 to 3 minutes per day already there was an improvement. And as my sessions progressed, I discovered that actually my desire to smoke went away by itself, and now I manage to smoke only when I choose, and my daily consumption has decreased significantly. So I went from 30 cigarettes to 10 per day without effort, without weight gain, without withdrawal effect. And as a result of this, I will certainly continue to use the Boulder Jacquier. That's one happy person. And this person, since putting in the Aero device, which is the professional use in the company, we have noticed a reduction in stress levels and an improvement in concentration. The staff using the device have reported a better sleep and better oxygenation. And we are now able to talk in terms of feeling of greater well-being. Boulder Jacquier brings a real relief to the staff at work. I think this is really amazing. In France, where the machine has been around for 30 years, it's placed in a lot of naturopathic schools, in a lot of companies. You really can see the benefits. As soon as people start using it, you can see, as I said, an improvement in focus, in sleep. In certain hospitals, there is a hospital in France, and there is a really good video on the HOLISTE website where you have, and I think he's a surgeon, talking about the benefits of using the machine before surgery and how it has improved the outcome for the patients. It's really extraordinary. So in conclusion, the key to good physical and mental health lies in homeostasis. So though detoxification is an excellent way to maintain or restore it, it requires rigorous support. And the Boulder has long proven its benefits both physically and mentally. So properly used, it optimizes detoxination. So revitalization is fed more quickly, and regular Boulder Jacquier session will optimize that stabilization. So thank you. And I'm sure there are some questions now.
We'll jump into the questions so that we can cover them, because I know that there have been quite a few questions around basically understanding how hypoxia happens. So let's start there, Jacquier. First question, with respect to carrying oxygen to cells, breathing in isn't the only thing, right? I mean, we have, we have the ability to actually transport oxygen ourselves. So yes, so we do need proper iron, hemoglobin levels, but also consuming iron or storing iron or converting it to the form that's usable, as well as having nitric oxide levels are important. Would you be looking at all of these factors? I know it's a long question, Jacquier, but
it is. And I think, I mean, as I said, I won't pretend, to be answering the question as, a scientist would, or, Beatrice would, but all these require a good apport of oxygen. I think that's the fundamental base. You can bring as much iron or supplements, or if your oxygen levels are low, then that will be impacted. And I think that's why, one of the slides, it says, and I've had these questions before where clients say, would it be really good, for this function or for this, for this? And I said, but the body, when you breathe, it doesn't stop somewhere. All your organs are impacted. If you are in a state of hypoxia, then you can't think properly. Your liver is not doing its job properly because it's a circle. So I agree with that, but you need the oxygen. It's the oxygen, makes the cells, produce that energy to then function properly. So you really, I always say it's the fundamental. It's really, the basic. If you don't have that, then nothing works properly. It's not optimized. I don't know if
Absolutely, I'm understanding. Like, so it's important to also make sure that there are a lot of other factors involved. Absolutely.
yes, yeah.
There's are there any drainage techniques that you have? This question from Royson. Can you be a little bit more specific about that?
Lymphatic massage is a good one. That's one. I don't I don't do it myself, but I know, some of my colleagues, do it, and it works wonderfully well as well because, you're working on different, you're bringing this, the body is better oxygenated, so it's working better. But what you want is also helping the body to get rid of the toxins, better. So having techniques, as I said, like lymphatic massage or any type of massage, depending on the body's vitality. I know certain of my clients, you really have to go slowly because their body is not able to deal with that. One of them said to me, he said, it's like an onslaught of good health. He said, I can't deal with it. And it's true in naturopathy. We know that depending on the person's vitality, you either have, some people can take it and some you have to go slow. So for some clients, for example, it's maybe some sessions with the bol d'air. And after a week or two, when the body has regained that sense of vitality, you can feel it, you can see it. Then you can do a drainage, for example, lymphatic massage or just a massage or reflexology, for example, can also work depending on what the person likes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. A few questions around contraindications. So a question from Emma. I note that it mentions a contraindication for those on immunosuppressive therapies. Does this apply to cancer treatments, i.e., for example, chemotherapy? Of course, there are a lot of evidence around using ozone, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or exercise with oxygen therapy for cancer. Nowadays are using a lot of this, and all of this is designed to improve cellular oxygenation. So this seems like a new additional or alternative method that you're proposing, Jacquier.
So there is almost a protocol, which I haven't got with me for this, but we can maybe, did you say it's Emma? Emma asked the question.
Yes, Emma Mead, yes.
Yeah, and then I would send you that because, they don't recommend to use it. I think it's before, so I really have to double check, for the sessions. But I'll get back to you on that because, it's better to be careful, when you use it in those conditions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. It's just an interesting alternative because all these years we have heard about, ozone and hyperbaric chambers, but I think using this orezene is something very new to a lot of practitioners across the globe.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, I'll just come back to it's, what René Jacquier was really good at. And this is culturally in the rest of Europe, people who go to sanatoriums, in Switzerland or, in France, we have places where you go for forest baths, what they call in Japanese, forest bath. And there is a study, which I will send you, where, people go into the forests and, these are proper medical places and people get better. And usually they are pine forests because, pines, it emanates, these molecules which, make people, healthier. And now, science has proven, why it works. So forest baths, that's where it all started. So as I said, in the rest of Europe, we kind of know, we are used, that's why the bol d'air is more known in France and in other parts of Europe, but not so much here. But yeah.
No, that's a very important point. I don't think we're surrounded by pine forests, etc.
No. Yeah.
So it's a very important point. And actually, there were a few questions around that, Jacquier, because someone asked, what is the name of the tree? Is it also like, where does the orezene come from? Does that come from the pine tree?
Yes, yeah. And it's, it's Latin, Pinus pinaster. It's, you know, as I said, in essential oils, you always talk about the plants with the Latin names, because as we know, for example, like lavender, you can have 5 different types of lavender, but the Latin names will be very specific for each ones. And that's why when I said you can only use the orezin because it's the only one who has those healing and, you know, properties. And that's also the ones that, you know, has been, you know, studied and has been recognized to have those benefits. So it comes from the Land, or the Land region, which is in the southwest. So it's very specific because of where it comes from and its chemotypical properties. So, you know, when people say, well, you know, I've got some essential oils, you know, can I use that? No, you know, you use a plant because of its properties, you know, how it's grown and, you know, the weather and the soil. And so it's very, very specific. So the tree is Pinus pinaster, which is in the presentation, by the way, so they'll be able to
to have a look at the Latin name. Yes,
yeah.
I think it's funny because Anisha has actually asked that question about using essential oils to increase oxygen uptake, and that, you know, it's true we can receive air doing this method or walking, you know, in being surrounded by trees such as the eucalyptus or the pine trees. But can we also use essential oils for this?
You could, but not in the machine, because, you know, it could be actually dangerous. And you know, I've had, you know, in the machine, because of the technicality, you know, that's the only essential oil you put in the machine. That's it. You know, we wouldn't recommend to use because of its properties, because also if you inhale something that has, you know, it can be quite toxic. So I always say, you know, with essentials, you have to be really, really careful. And with the machine, because again, you know, that's a chemical reaction, you only put the orezin in that machine. That's it.
No, absolutely true. It's important. And then the part 2 from that question from Anisha is, can we also use nutrition to support sirtuins? And is that's probably not enough, but obviously nutrition can play a role in this.
Yeah. And I think that's why, you know, in the presentation, we said it's a holistic process. You know, as at the beginning, you know, you've seen, you know, the cell, you have storable nutrients, which comes from food, and then you have what you can't store, which is oxygen. With that, you know, you create homeostasis or good health. Now, you know, you can have lots of bolder sessions if, you know, you want a good detox process. You know, you can't not look into the diet, because as we know, depending on what you eat, that's going to improve your detox success. Carrying on, you know, eating, I don't know, you know, sweets or, you know, drinking alcohol whilst on a detox process is not going to help. Again, you know, it's thinking about it holistically, you know, the digestive system, what are we bringing in? And bringing in is the diet, you know, drinking, and also bringing in as the oxygen. That's why the oxygenation is also important. So we are bringing more oxygen that will increase the metabolism processes by giving the digestive system rest. So nutrition is really important. But yeah, I mean, I won't get into it, but, you know, all our practitioners will know, you know, how important to give really good dietary advices, you know, to make sure the digestive system is getting the nutrients, but not overworking. And that will have an impact on sleep. We all know that if you have, you know, a sleep that's not restful, then, you know, the most of your body function won't really, you know, be active. Or so it's all linked. That's why, you know, as I said, you know, is the diet, is the oxygenation, is, you know, how do people think about those things? Because, you know, the mind is also really important. So
absolutely. And, you know, obviously it's when you're looking at free radicals, because there was a question that came up for that. It's not just by breathing we're emitting free radicals anyways, but the antioxidants in the diet, and obviously the stress levels, all of that has an impact. But eating an antioxidant rich nutrient diet obviously plays a very big role in this. There are a few technical questions actually that have come up, because when you showed us, when we're seeing this machine and we're breathing in, are there specific instructions that are given for optimal inhalation methods methods like, yogic breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, like, or is it just normal breathing that we're looking at?
Yeah. So you just sit in front of the machine and then, 10 centimeters from the mouthpiece, and then just, relaxing and just taking in the air. And it's almost meditative. That's what I say, I just sit there with some of my clients and I look at them. I said, just, breathing. And you can just see them, the tension just, goes down. So depending on how long, they are sitting there. And that's why, for all our practitioners, once you get the machine, just stay with your clients, because you just don't know, especially for the elderly patients, sometimes they can be maybe, after the session, a little bit dizzy. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just, when you're having that, as I said, it's almost like an influx of oxygen, you can feel really dizzy. So just stay there and see how they react. Some of them ask them to lay down afterwards, even for 5-10 minutes. So it also increases their sense of well-being and stress, especially the ones who maybe come, I don't know, during their lunchtime and, they're in the office. So doing a bowl death session, plus then lying down and maybe listening to a meditation track, that's also part of the detox process, because you get them into a routine, which is also good. And then go, oh, I haven't done that for a week. Let's go back to it.
No, very true, very true. So there is no specific instruction, and that's very easy then for the client to just take the breather, take a few minutes and test the client and see how much they can actually uptake in the beginning, as you said.
Yeah. Even if they do, and I've never had anyone even doing 1 minute and not saying, oh, I feel better, or I don't feel better, or, they always come back with something. They either say, oh, I slept better that night. I don't understand why. And then I said, well, you did a session. And they go, yeah, that's true. Or they feel less foggy, or they go, oh, I had a headache, but that went, for example. So it improves, it gives you a sense of well-being straight away. And that's what people need to try. And I'm sure, we'll talk about this, but, we will have a session in London, so where people, can come and try, because you really, really need to try it. There is no way about that. Sorry.
Yes, no, I was going to say that we'll, Amy will definitely put the Calendly link there.
Yes.
To meet, I think you said on the 11th of October in London. And for those outside of London, whether it's in the UK and Ireland, in Europe, or in the US, you have different supports and representatives in different countries. So we'll definitely put those links in the chat. I think Amy's going to be putting that, so that those of you who do live in London, you're most welcome to meet Jacquier on the 11th of October, and she'll give you all the details for central London address, for you to come and look at the device, test the device, get a feeling, and breathe in the orosine that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And get an experience yourself, not just as a practitioner, but as, a participant. Yeah. Speaking about countries, where is this actually available? Is it available in the US and in the UK? Jacquier, can you tell us a little bit more about where we can access this?
Yeah, so in the US, I believe if they contact at holiste.com, I think, then our sales or export manager will be able to, because of export issues, I wouldn't want to, give maybe the wrong information. But if they contact us, and the name of the lady is Suad, and she's brilliant, and they do export things, so she'll be able to tell them about the US. For the UK, the machine is available, and we've sold, machines. We sell them here, so there is no problem. Again, I think, Amy put the contact, the email address.
Yes, but in one of the questions from Emma was, is there a list of clinics in the UK that are taking advantage of this therapy and machines? I mean, are there?
That I haven't got the list, but again, we'll be able to give her a list of maybe clinics later on. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a few technical questions here about the orosine and the client situation. So I'm going to start with understanding if you can explain us a little bit more about the peroxidation process that you mentioned.
in details, or well, the peroxidation process, as I said, you know, that's something that happens in nature. So what René Jacquier discovered, as I said, you know, he was, why are these people going for forest baths, for example, you know, getting better? So what he tried to almost replicate is, you know, at a local level with, you know, with the, so it's taking the specific essential oils, and the peroxidation just, it's like a catalyst. So these alpha pinene molecules are able to, I mean, the capacity to, they're almost like, I call them like little friends, you know. So they are more able to take more oxygen molecules into the blood, where if it was alone, you know, you wouldn't get, you know, as much. So as I said, you know, I wouldn't be able to go into more scientific details because, you know, it's not my remit. But maybe, you know, we can ask for more scientific, maybe for those who are scientists in the panel. But
yeah, I think sometimes they just want to understand the mechanism of action and how that is possible. But it'll be great to just get a, you know, a cheat sheet to understand how perioxidation works and how the alpha pinanes are being, you know, they're catalyst to activate the molecule in itself. Absolutely. I have a case here from Rachel, who's saying that she has someone with pulmonary fibrosis. Would this procedure and the orosine assist with difficulty breathing?
It would, yeah. Starting again very slowly, you know, seeing how the person, depending on which machine, you know, she will be using, but it will definitely help. Again, you know, 1 minute, you know, we're starting, you know, even 1 minute a day, and just slowly increasing so that, you know, the person is not overwhelmed, because it can be quite overwhelming sometimes, depending on the person's, you know, condition, you know, seriousness of the condition, or, you know, or even, you know, age, or, so it will definitely help. But again, you know, start very, you know, very slow.
Yeah, I mean, we have a practitioner from Ireland, Grania, who's saying, I've never heard of this machine before. And she lives in Ireland, but it sounds really great, and she'd love to introduce it to her practice. So definitely it would be good to get the contact details for the Europeans and the Americans as well. And also, I think there have been a few questions about being available to purchase and some of the prices, but Gareth is asking, are the machines available to purchase in the UK, which you already answered and said yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And are there any machines that clients can use in the UK and London? So either we can, as a practitioner, sell the machine, I guess, for personal use, the one you mentioned.
Yeah.
Or we could use the professional one, or we could use the personal one ourselves. So if you can give us a little bit of a quick run through on that, and maybe some of the London ones can come and see you on the 11th of October. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've had both machines. I've had the tonic, which I have at the moment, and I've had the Aero, which is the more professional one. Personally, the Aero, the professional model, is a little bit more expensive, but I would definitely recommend that one. I started with that one, and then, you know, I got the family model, and it's just a different experience. It's also, I think, if you're a practitioner and if you see clients regularly, it's a good investment, because, you know, if you see people regularly, it improves their condition on so many levels, and it doesn't matter what they come, you know, apart from the contraindication. You know, I always say, for example, if I have somebody who's, you know, quite stressful, I say, why don't you just do 1 minute, you know, whilst I do my notes, for example, I look at your notes, but just do 1 minute of bold air. And it just, you know, sends them into a state of relaxation. You know, they've stopped for 1 minute. So, and it improves, honestly, it improves everything. So you can either include that in your, you know, in your, what do you call it, in your sessions in terms of price, or because you will see your clients, you know, more often, just for that, just, you know, for 5-10 minutes, it's really worth paying, because, as I said, you know, the machine is amazing. Once you've got it, you know, you've got it for life. It's, you know, it's sturdy, it's well made, you know, you get the essential oil, and it's just amazing. But I would go for the Aero 2 model if you can. because it's so much better. And also, if you use it, if you have, I don't know, 5-10 clients per day, then, it's better to use it's sturdier than the other one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we can't seem to have your Calendly link anywhere. So I'm asking Suad, who is on the chat, to please send the link for those who live in London and who want to connect and meet Jacquier and test the machine.
Yeah.
She's more than happy to do that. And for those who don't live in London or anywhere near London, we have all the contact details and they will get in touch with you directly. There's some wonderful, yes.
Is for the first of the 11th, it is at the Royal Society of Medicine, isn't it?
So it's in central London at the Royal Society, but it would be nice to book the appointment or to confirm that you would come see Jacquier. So that's why I'm asking Suad for the Calendly link, but we can't see it anywhere. So hopefully she sends it over on the chat. And if not, we'll send it tomorrow along with the replay, etc.
I think once you use it, that's it. You can't go back. Trust me. It's
That's really amazing to hear. Thank you. Sevi is saying, as a practitioner, she's considering the purchase and she would recommend it to the clients. How would it be superior or differ from the standard nebulizer, where hydrogen peroxide is being used along the essential oil? So how would you justify that? Because that process of using a standard nebulizer with hydrogen peroxide and essential oils, how is that different comparatively to this Orezin pine essence tool?
Well, chemically, I believe, again, I can double check, but chemically the process is very different. In that mini lab, that's what I understood. It is different. You can't even, because people say, the hyperbaric, the processes are different. So I don't know what the first, I don't know on a cellular level, I don't know how that works. So I don't know, I wouldn't be able to compare them, but I believe the processes are different. Which essential oils, does it, because that's an external factor, isn't it? It's the
yes, I'll ask Sevi because she's the one who asked the question.
Yeah,
but it's the nebulizer alongside the essential oils that's being used that clients might be feeling quite, seeing quite positive results from that. But comparing that to the Orezin would be interesting.
I believe there is a cheat sheet, I think, about that. So I will try to find it. And the comparison between hyperbaric chamber and Boulder, I'll try to find it because I think we have got something somewhere. And then
if you could give us some comparative studies of how much oxygen uptake is being done with the Boulder versus some of these typical oxygen uptake therapies that are out there, would be great. And a great question from Judy: how much does it actually cost? We didn't discuss that, Zaki.
No, we didn't, because I'm not usually, I don't talk money, but that's on the website. If we have our website link, then on the models, you have got the prices there.
Yes, I guess you're like me, a practitioner. We don't talk about the details of the prices, but please do go to the HOLISTE website, look at the 3 devices that Jacquier has had, and depending on where you are, which country, I think the currency shows up anyway.
Yes,
so I wouldn't worry too much about that. We have some wonderful feedback. Gronya saying she's running a wellness retreat with the emphasis on detoxification, and this lecture has been very, very useful. So,
good, I'm glad.
Yes, and Gronya is also saying the prices are on the website. I did have a look at the prices, and yes, at first glance it sounds expensive as a practitioner, but I think it's about seeing the long-term continuity of the tool. And realizing that you're, either charging the client every time they use this.
Yeah.
So, the return on investment or the breakdown of this, you get back the return on investment anyways. A, you get a client that's happy, but B, you could charge the client for these sessions as well, as far as I've understood.
Yeah.
It's about looking at this as a long-term investment of the machine.
Yeah. Once, as I said, I've been sorted the course for over 20 years or 25 years now, since I used it for the first time. As as a patient, once you see the results, it's just amazing. You can use it, it improves sleeps. The very first sessions, and I think, that's what's so amazing. People sit there for 5-10 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day, even once a week. You can see the benefits. And the studies are there. I mean, in France, because I'm French, so I know, it's used, almost everywhere. You go to a chemist or pharmacy and you have the bowl there. It's part of your daily routine or your weekly routine. So implementing that, I think it's like, brushing your teeth. I always, you think, oh, I do my, I don't know, 1 minute or 5 minutes of bowl there. And it's that preventative way of doing things, which I love, because, people say to me, oh, I haven't done my bowl there, but they know it's a big part of, of being healthy, being, well oxygenated, at a cellular level, which, we are not, with pollution and all the other problems, you can't really, that's why having that either at home or in your practice, it's just amazing. And we'll see more and more degenerative. As I said, I will also send you the link for the degenerative conditions, because that has nothing to do with Bolia, but they recognize that hypoxia is one of the biggest problems we have.
I really love the case study that we shared with all the practitioners. We have the case study on hypoxia and the brain damage that occurs there, which means when you're looking at neurodegenerative conditions, you're really looking at helping to prevent hypoxia in the brain. And I think if Boulder is helping with the neurodegenerative conditions, it's quite an important one to look at. I don't know if Lucille is still on, but I hope she's heard that information, because she is one of the key practitioners that works with Parkinson's disease. So she would be definitely interested to hear about this.
We also have lots of newsletters on specific conditions. I don't know if you've got them. So maybe practitioners can also have those. There is one on stress, on pollution, on detox, I think. So, and with testimonials from practitioners as well, doctors or physiotherapists.
It would be great to have those handouts, so that we can send those out tomorrow as well. So we'll send the case studies, and we'll send any relevant information you could send us. That would be great. There's a very nice point from Grania, who's saying that as we age, and she's 67 and on no medication, but she exercises regularly, and obviously as a practitioner her diet is good, but unfortunately doctors are putting older people on medications, and who might not even need the medication, and they don't even have a proper lifestyle or diet in place. So all these factors, means that you do need to use something extra in your life to offer to clients. Absolutely.
There is also a link. There is a very important link with inflammation as well. So as practitioners, we can see the link with inflammation, and it makes the bed of diseases. Where you have inflammation, there is, and again, this is our scientists saying that, there is a lack of oxygenation. If you bring that in, if you bring more oxygenation, there is less inflammation in the body. And we know that inflammation, is the start for loads of, diseases. So again, it's that balance, you bring more of something and there is less of something else. So treating the inflammation, whether it's in, in the brain or, in the guts, with, treating hypoxia, then it will help, other conditions. So really, really important.
Absolutely. And if you are sending us information, if there's anything to maybe compare, as Anisha said, something to include more essential oils that are studied versus using, the HOLISTE machine, it would be nice if you had any comparative studies or cheat sheets with other therapies and the comparison of those therapies using the efficacy of the orosin. So I'm going to take one last question, because we have also run out of time. You mentioned the drainage. Would dry brushing also help with drainage?
Of course, absolutely. No, definitely. And it's a nice way to also connect with one's body. The number of people who said to me, I haven't got the time to do that. And I say, well, it takes, maybe 1 minute. I say, oh, I discovered maybe, I can do this movement, or it's reconnecting with one's body. which, you know, people tend to do less and less, as we know, because they're busy, because they are stressed, because they are, I don't know, you know, especially in the last 2 years, you know, they've been, you know, mental health is also a big thing. So saying to them, this is time for you. You sit there and this is, you know, 5 minutes or 1 minute, it's time for you to reconnect. So that's also really, really important. I think that's what the boulder does, you know, it brings all the main functions, you know, to work more efficiently so that, you know, the body holistically, you know, works better, which is, you know, what we want, you know, starting, you know, from the brain, as we said, because it's the bigger user of oxygen, you know, your kidney, your liver. So yeah, it's a very holistic product. I mean, that's why I love it.
Absolutely. And as a practitioner, if you can add it into your toolbox, I think that's a great way to do it.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jacquier. That was very, very informative, as I said.
My pleasure. Thank you for the good questions.
Thank you. There have been some great comments. Emma saying fascinating session. Anne-Marie, thank you from Romania. Sevi said very interesting product. And yes, it's important to connect with nature, but also this is one way of doing this for a couple of minutes a day.
Of course, yeah.
And if anybody wants to meet Jacquier, please look at the contact detail. Jacquier, if you can remind me your email address so that they can contact you directly to test the machine with you in London.
Yeah, they could, or I can give my telephone number. I can give my, you know, it's zackermans@gmail.com. Or if they contact the HOLISTE, I think Swat put the HOLISTE email address, because, you know, it can be centralized and then they can maybe direct the queries, you know, maybe better.
Contact at HOLISTE with an E at the end.com.
That's it.
But you can reach out to them. They have some amazing case studies. They have a lot of evidence-backed information. And, you know, I would encourage all of you to look at their website, look at the studies. And tomorrow we'll send you more of that information alongside the presentation from today.
And please come on the 11th. I'll be, you know, it's great. I'll be delighted to see you. So yes, looking forward to seeing you all there.
Same here. Thank you. And we'll see all of you next week on the 5th of October. We have a topic around immune resilience with Dr. Rajendra Sharma, an amazing masterclass with a very well-known integrative medic and practitioner. So do look at that. And thank you so much, everyone. Lovely comments for you, Jacquier from
Thank you.
I love these webinars. Interesting. Many thanks from Gareth. Lovely comments for you from Anisha and everybody.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for helping us discover something that's truly something that will help our clients and ourselves as well.
Thank you.